Something puzzled me for a long time about the way Mark's gospel records Yeshua's answer to the question about the greatest commandment. Mark writes, Jesus answered, "The most important is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength." What puzzled me was why Yeshua began his answer with, "Hear, O Israel." That didn't make sense until I realized Yeshua was quoting Moses. He was repeating the Shema, the foundational statement of faith not only for Jews, but for all who profess to follow the God of Abraham. Well, that's another thing Moses spoke about. From his teachings, we understand that God's revelation of the Torah wasn't only for the Jewish people, and not only for the assembly of Israel listening to his final speech before they entered the Promised Land. The Torah is given to everyone from all nations. Moses put it this way, "See, just as Adonai my God commanded me, I have taught you statutes and ordinances to do in the land that you are about to enter to possess. You must keep and do them, for it is your wisdom and understanding in the eyes of the peoples who will hear all these statutes and say, 'Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.' For what great nation is there that has gods so near to them, as Adonai our God is whenever we call on him? What great nation is there that has statutes and ordinances that are righteous, like all of this Torah that I'm setting before you today?" This regard of the nations for Israel's God and his ways is happening before our eyes. In fact, it's been happening ever since God called Abraham to cross over from the status quo of the idolatrous ancient world and embrace the truth of the eternal Creator. We know about that because of the Jews, as both Yeshua and Paul testify. More recently, author Thomas Cahill wrote in his book, The Gifts of the Jews, about the blessings the nations have received from the Jewish people. According to Cahill, unbelievers might wish to stop for a moment and consider how completely God, the Jewish God of justice and compassion, undergirds all our values, and that it is just possible that human effort without this God is doomed to certain failure. Humanity's most extravagant dreams are articulated by the Jewish prophets. In Isaiah's vision, true faith is no longer confined to one nation, but all the nations stream to the house of Yahweh, that he may teach us his ways, and that we may learn to beat our swords into plowshares. All who share this outrageous dream of universal brotherhood, peace, and justice, who dream the dreams and see the visions of the great prophets, must bring themselves to contemplate the possibility that without God, there is no justice. This is what Paul means when he writes, "Then what advantage has the Jew? Or what is the value of circumcision? Much in every way. To begin with, the Jews were entrusted with the oracles of God. What if some were unfaithful? Does their faithlessness nullify the faithfulness of God? By no means. Let God be true, though everyone were a liar. As it is written, that you may be justified in your words and prevail when you are judged." Paul wrote this to Yeshua's Gentile followers in Rome because even back then, they began to wonder why they should have anything to do with Jews. After all, most Jews refused to recognize Yeshua as Messiah. Judea's secular government under Herod was corrupt and self-serving. The Judean religious establishment was blind to their own shortcomings, and the emphasis of God's work seemed to have shifted away from Israel to the nations. That's why Paul reminded the Romans, "But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive, were grafted in among them, and became a partaker of the root of the olive tree with its richness, do not boast against the branches. But if you do boast, it is not you who support the root, but the root supports you." You will say then, "Branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in." True enough. They were broken off because of unbelief, and you stand by faith. Do not be arrogant, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you. Notice then the kindness and severity of God. Severity toward those who fell, but God's kindness toward you, if you continue in his kindness. Otherwise you too will be cut off. And they also, if they do not continue in their unbelief, will be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. The more things change, the more they stay the same. God's covenant with Israel is eternal because it depends on him, not on frail human beings, either Jewish or Gentile. That's why he is again choosing Zion and is restoring the land and people of Israel just as he promised through Moses, the prophets, and Messiah Yeshua. One bit of evidence of this is the fact that a growing number of Yeshua's followers, whether they call themselves Christians or Messianics or Hebraic believers, now join with their Jewish counterparts to say the Shema. This is how the glory of the Lord covers the earth, when all humanity looks beyond their divisions and faults and toward him who will complete his redemption and perfection of Israel and the nations.